Join Pam Perry, veteran PR strategist, Emmy award-winning producer and publisher of Speakers Magazine, who will show you how to crack the code in getting out there to get known. Each week, she either interviews her media friends, PR colleagues, or she just goes solo, offering you strategies on publicity, publishing, and platform building. So listen up to hear how to get booked on media places and on superstar stages. Now, here's your host, Pam Perry.
Hey, welcome to the Pam Perry PR podcast. We call it Get Out There and Get Known because that's what you want to do. So today we're going to talk about print and PR. I love print. My background is in print. I worked for the Free Press for many, many years. I love magazines. My house is like filled with magazines. Besides having like Speakers Magazine, print is the thing. That is just my personal preference. I know a lot of people love TV. Obviously, this is a podcast. I worked in radio too for several years, but print is near and dear to my heart. I grew up really just reading a lot of these print publications. So today we have Maleeka Holloway on, and she's going to be talking about print and PR. She's a publicist that works with a lot of clients, and she gets them featured in magazines, which I love. Things like Forbes, Business Insider, Huff Post, Entrepreneur, and I'm sure probably some of the Black publications as well as Essence and Black Enterprise and Ebony. How don't want to leave them out. So we're going to be talking about that. But her background, she's out of Atlanta, the ATL, and she is the principal publicist and communications consultant with the official Maleeka Group. And we call that the OMG, right? Official Maleeka Group, OMG. And she also has worked as a contributing writer for Influencive as well, and also as a contributing writer for the Good Men Project. And so a lot of the publications that she works with are really, I guess you would say, very widespread. And one of the things I want to talk to Maleeka about is like, why do people really want PR, and why is good press really like the lead thing that I think really helps set you apart versus say someone who's just on what I call like their 3 minutes or 4 minutes of fame on television, but you can actually have this print publication. So with that, I'm going to bring up Maleeka.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you for having me. That was a great intro, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome. So I'm going to move you over to the right and really just kind of like get into it about your love for print and really how you really found that niche in terms of that. Because the Goodman Project, I always tell a lot of my clients too, that writing should be your lead, followed by it should be with print, radio, and television. It's almost like a stair step. And I like the Goodman Project. I like Influencive. I had some clients in there. And even before SEO was a thing, Maleeka, it was just good to have a journalist tell your story. You know, this is this month's Speaker Magazine, but
Dr. Kimbrough.
Yes. So Dr. Kimbrough is here, but you can tell his story, and obviously he's an author as well. But the main thing is that Sierra Black does the cover story. She's out of Atlanta as well. Okay. But why print? Why would someone really want to focus, I guess you would say, and really try to do print, magazines especially, not necessarily newspapers. So we'll talk about magazines today.
With print, I look at print publications or getting yourself featured or seen in print publications. It's almost like getting on TV, especially when the magazine is like sold in stores and you can go into Barnes and Noble and get a magazine off the shelf, which I've done multiple times for my clients, and find their pictures and find their names. It just gives you that feeling of almost like I've arrived, I've made it. And of course, us being in PR and working in media, and you, of course, got years on me in the game. You've seen how media has changed over the years.
Oh, my God.
It's almost like social media has taken over and almost wiped everything out. So it's still there.
We call it PR 2.0 because you have to have that. You have to have those digital footprints in order to be seen and heard. So, Maleeka, why would, say, for instance, there's an author, there's a speaker, why do they need PR? I try to explain it to people in a way that, makes business sense, because the ROI on publicity is not necessarily that it drives sales, but it can. So
Yes.
explain to people why publicity, because they need to know like what it is for. Now, obviously it makes them feel good to say, "Oh, I
Yes.
saw you in Entrepreneur, I saw you in Forbes." But beyond that, how does someone that's a speaker and author really leverage it for their business?
Really, it's like having third party credibility or third party verification, if you will.
Mhm.
Like one of my clients, she's an interior designer. She has some celebrity clients, but she works with everyday people as well. But I know when she worked with us for like 6 months, she had her first. She made $176,000 that month, and it was from how hard we were able to plug her and plug her business in a lot of the publications. And of course, what she do, she shared them out on her social media, on her news list. And so what it did, it drove traffic to her story as a black interior designer or decorator. But what it allowed her to do was be able to fill up her pipeline with leads and people to
Mhm.
close. And so wow, and I get what you're saying. It's like it's very hard to explain our ROI, but it's from a storytelling aspect. Sometimes people try to tell their own stories, and they do a good job. Let me say that
Yeah,
they do
they
a good
do. They could go on a TED Talk and they can tell their own
but
story and
they
that
need
kind of
one
thing.
of us to
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
for this publication or for this audience, these are the talking points. These are the topics. This is how you get a post for the room.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I typically tell people they need PR, not when they're trying to drive revenue. No, you need marketing and sales for that. That's what
Right.
marketing and sales is for. Public
Mhm.
relations is more for the relationship building and the storytelling aspect, the thing that
Mhm.
gets people like loyal to you. It's like brand building. You get
Yes,
people bought into
exactly.
your story, especially for authors, speakers, coaches. Like you need people to fall in love with you, and naturally they'll want to know, okay, let me see what she's really doing. What's the business about? Let me support them. Or hey, she has or he has what I need, and so I need to hire them. So PR really helps fill up your pipeline and get your story out there, whether it's you for your personal brand or for your company, so that people can really fall in love with you. It's like getting a third party verification, somebody
Mhm.
else saying you're
And
great, you're amazing, you know what you're doing.
we always say the best form of advertising is
Word
word
of
of
mouth.
mouth
Yes.
and being having referrals and really people recommending you, and really before you even enter the room, people
Yes.
should really kind of be speaking about you. What are they saying? And so PR is that tool that builds leads, also builds traffic. And so when I have Dennis Kimbrough was on Atlanta Live, it's a different market for him. That's
Yeah.
was primarily a Christian market. Dr. Teresa Harrison interviewed him. So he's been around and people know about
Mhm.
his books, Think and Grow Rich. But now there's a Christian audience that he can speak to, telling basically the same story,
Yes.
but to a different audience. And so tell us like a little bit of the differences between some of the publications that we're talking about audiences, what an audience for entrepreneur, what their audience basically bend is versus Forbes versus Business Insider. So that
Yeah.
people can
Yes.
really understand. One of the things I will tell people that if you want to be in a particular publication,
Read it.
study the publication, read it, understand it. You can really hear what Maleeka will say, but
Mhm.
for the most part, for yourself, really know who what they're writing about and who their target audience is.
And
So
see, I always tell people whenever I get a prospect, they're like, oh, I want to be in all the stuff you've been in, all the stuff your clients been in. I'm like, well, where do your clients hang out? Because it would
exactly.
not do you any good to get a feature or to be on the cover of Entrepreneur Magazine if your clients are reading Exo Nicole or
Hmm.
they're reading
Hmm.
Black Enterprise
Or they're reading a
or
cooking
they're reading a cooking book.
magazine, right?
But I
So
think it's that allurement of just to be able to say, "Oh, I was an entrepreneur, I was in Forbes," and that's
I
the part that I am doing my best to cut out. Like it was cute at first, and I was like, "Wait a minute, we got it messed up." And so, Business Insider really likes to give tips on for everyday people. Almost, it's like me giving my experience. Like I wrote an article for them, and I talked about how from one skill I was able to create half a dozen income streams because you know how they
mhm,
say everybody needs the average
7.
billionaire has 7 streams of income, but I was like, it's not having a tax business and then a PR agency and then a t-shirt company.
And a chimney sweeping.
It's like I use my one skill as a communicator to be able to build multiple streams. So I'm an author,
Yes.
I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, I'm a publicist, I do
So it
marketing, you know.
naturally.
And
Mhm.
so that's what Business Insider is about. So when people say, "Oh, I want to be in Business Insider," I'm like, "Well, what can you teach people?" Like that's the easiest in for Business Insider. For entrepreneur, what's different about your entrepreneurial journey? People like to say, well, we made $1 million last year. I'm like, and so did 7 of my other clients. Actually, they made 5 to 10 million. So again, what is
This
different
is one of
about
the things that Francesca Felder, she says, greetings, Dr. Pam and Maleeka. She
hey,
says, Maleeka, I'm seeing you everywhere. And that's really what part
that's
of it,
awesome.
getting out there and getting known is about being seen everywhere. When people say, oh, I see your name everywhere,
Yes.
they see you in different publications, but they do have to be knowing maybe Francesca, maybe she's seeing you everywhere, she's seeing you everywhere because you're in her target audience, right?
Absolutely.
You're in her target audience, so she's seeing you everywhere in the places where it fits for her to see it. Now, maybe if she were reading, I don't know, if you're in the Wall Street Journal, she may not have seen that one,
Exactly.
but she
Yep.
sees you in the other part where you see everywhere. And so much of Business Insider is for everyday people, entrepreneur versus Forbes. So what's the difference, the slight difference between, I'm sure they probably go head to head
Yeah.
in terms of advertising dollars, but in terms of editorial, what is the difference
I
between
was gonna
those
say,
two?
yeah, advertising dollars, it's the same, but from the editorial, the storytelling aspect. So Forbes likes to separate. It's almost like the upper echelon of
Okay.
people doing business or companies making money, and so I could honestly say, no matter how long you've been in business, if your story is good enough and it's a story that can talk about generating revenue or building some type of notoriety and it's not been heard before, you'd be a very good candidate for Forbes and entrepreneur. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times when we think about Forbes, we automatically think about riches and wealth, period.
Mm-hmm. The
But they
Forbes
also
list.
have, content outside of just business, outside of just money. Sometimes it's something new that's happening or coming up. And so I think it's very important, to your point, like people have to read the publications and know what type of content they're putting out. For us, I tell other publicists, like, if you're going to pitch somebody, you better have read at least 5 to 10 articles if they have that many. So you don't tell them something they've already done. You got to give them something new. And
Right.
so as a parallel, you have Black Enterprise. It's about people making moves in the Black business world.
Mm-hmm.
It's about new stories we haven't heard. Some we have. Then we have Exo Nicole. It's for millennial women, for women
Mm-hmm.
of color. And
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of times you'll see people pitching like, oh, my name is Katie, a white woman, soccer mom. It's like, how are you going to relate to me? And so the thing is, and I have to tell my clients, just because you have in your head that this is your goal publication, it will do nothing for your bottom line if your audience doesn't read, doesn't listen to the podcast, doesn't watch the TV show. And if something's new, because a lot of times people want to go straight for like the top tier, but I'm like, none of your people read anything on there. It'll look
Mm-hmm.
good. You can say, oh, I was featured in Forbes and all this.
And that's what I kind of call ego marketing. So it feeds their ego,
Mhm.
but it doesn't really help with their ROI. And so it's such good
Yes.
dopamine people will have when they're seen in certain publications and they have the bragging rights and they can walk around and like strut the tail feathers, right, like a peacock. But when it really comes down to it, does that really matter? If you're a business person, and really PR is a function of marketing, and
Yeah.
marketing is a function of sales. And sales is, if nothing
Yes.
gets sold, you're not in business. So I know people who get a lot of publicity and they don't know how to turn it. They don't know how
Yes.
to really convert it into real dollars. When people are in speakers magazine, so say for instance, this is Darnielle, and they know how to turn this in. One, he has a book and he has another project that he's working on. So obviously it's given him, he's been around for a while, but it's
Right.
given him some new exposure. And then she has an event, and then she'll also be in the magazine. And so we share it out
Mhm.
for not just like, oh, isn't that a pretty picture, which is what everybody's really like so excited about. But it's like, it's more than that. Because sometimes
Yes.
you could be in the magazine, you could be an entrepreneur, Business Insider, Forbes, and not have a picture.
Yep.
And it's still good
It's
because
still
it's
good.
telling the story. And so trying to get a lot of the authors and speakers who kind of feel quote unquote like celebrities, they really just look at the
Yeah.
optics. And it's not about
Absolutely.
the optics, it's about the story. So do
Yes.
you think that authors and speakers should pitch, or should they write, or should they do a combination of both?
I would definitely say do a combination of both.
Mhm.
Before I decided to do PR, I was actually a ghostwriter and an editor,
Ah,
and I would
okay.
write people's books for them, and they would be so excited that the book is done. But I realized they don't even know how to sell it. They don't even know how to talk about themselves or the book in a way that will make somebody want to buy it. And I was like, there has to be something else outside of branding. It has to be a certain marketing. And that's when I fell into PR, because I was like, oh, it's the storytelling and it's the public perception. And I like that part. But like, to your point, people have to be able to sell in order to stay in business. And many people, they have great pictures, they have great websites, beautiful social media, amazing programs mapped out, but they don't know how to sell it. And so when I have on my PR hat, I'm wearing multiple hats. I'm always in sales mode, because my thing is, and I tell people, there has to be a return on the investment, whether that's us getting leads to your email. I don't really like social media followers. I do not like using that as a metric, because those are not people in your pipeline. If they're not exchanging some
social media can shut you down. Facebook
shut you down immediately.
or I've had someone that will call me in tears and says, "Oh, my Instagram just got hacked," and this and that.
It happened to me last year, and I was like,
but you have an email list, so you can build from that. You can send out an email to everyone on your on your list.
And text message list.
Yes, mobile marketing is really, really important. So people will answer that quicker than they will. Like sometimes.
Yes, they will. But I would say write and can be because I like to work with thought leaders, people who actually do want to contribute and write and put the thoughts out there about entrepreneurship and what success really is, because I think social media has done a very great job at warping what it is to be a business owner, what it is to be successful. And so I tell them, hey, you're going to have to write. You need to contribute to some platforms. And of course, everybody, well, I want to write for the top ones. And I'm like, well, nobody knows you. You barely know you. Let's start somewhere.
Let's get a byline at least in your local paper. Let's blog for a few, and let's see how that goes. Let's really just shape your thoughts. Your thought leader. Like, okay, so what thoughts are we leading with here? And I always tell people that, and they says, well, I just want to do lives. I just want, and it's fine. I mean, I've been blogging since 2005, so I put together like all of my blogs, and they were like as thick as phone books. Like they were this.
You had books. I
had books, and I was like, oh my God. I said, but live just came along, and so people say, oh, I see you, or I know you, and I've seen you, but it's like I blog. My words were the main thing that people really need to grab a hold of. So I want people to really understand that the optics for video, the optics for photos and all that, that's really, really important. But what is really, really critical is the journalism of writing. You heard Maleeka say that she was a ghostwriter before she became a publicist, and she's using the same type of skills. If you can, because think about it, if you're going to pitch someone, you're going to have to write a great headline. You're going to have to write a good pitch. You're going to have to write a good press release. You're going to have to write a good media kit. So it's the words. And so many times when we're talking about branding, people think it's all about the optics and the pictures and the video. And it's not. It's really, really not. I want to take a break right here, and we're going to talk about branding, really how that fits in with PR. And right after this, we'll come back and talk more about really like how to get in these publications for real.
And Pam Perry, veteran PR strategist, Emmy award-winning producer and publisher of Speakers Magazine.
I know that you probably have a message that you want to reach the masses, and you've been doing it for a long time. It's just like, you just need that big break. Enter in the Brand Accelerator program, where we bring to you 10 key experts that will give you access to their brain and to their resources so that you can accelerate.
I know that in order to really grow my influence and my impact, I've got to get on media. I've got to be seen. So I've had other publicists that have worked with me in the past. But Pam doesn't just focus on where you are right now. She focuses on where you're going and what publicity, what media is in alignment with that.
Hey there. So what she said was like, what media is in alignment with that? Not every media is for you. So that was Nicole Roberts Jones. I've worked with her for a while, but she's on she's in a different realm of like reeling Christian women. And so she's on the top podcast for Christian women. She's in Christian magazines, Christian television shows, business and Christian women, purpose driven women. She was just on that podcast. So those are maybe not as big as, well, she was on CNBC too. We did get her there. But the part of it is that probably her target audience wasn't on CNBC, but it was a good bragging right to say that she went
Yep.
on there. But her audience is really on the ones where they're concentrated. They're concentrated. Like all of your people are reading, a certain publication because that's where they are, or they're on Atlanta Live, or they're in, Fit and Faith, or those are the different type of places where they are concentrated of who it is. And so when I tell people, I said the media, if you make a list of your top 10 media, think about where the concentration of your audience is, not how big the audience is for the publication, but where the concentration of your audience. I said that is so, so key because you'll get good return on investment on that. But building up the brand, sometimes you need those bigger ones, to really kind of like settle, like, oh, they've been seen on CNBC, and that builds that brand and positioning in someone's mind. And then it gives it that credibility that people are looking for. So when you're saying to people, it's like, okay, it's more than PR. It really is a little bit of branding. How do you work with the clients to make them understand that, we don't have a magic wand. We can't do all this kind of
I was
stuff.
wondering if the wand was going to come out at some point.
The wand comes out because they think like, can't you just make me famous? Can you just wave?
It's
this
like
wand?
I would be Bill Gates if I could just make you famous, and
Right.
I probably wouldn't be talking to you because then I would be super famous. You know what I mean? But with branding, it's all about that emotional connection. What do people feel? What do they think? What do they see when they come in contact with you?
Yes.
Like when you say Dennis Kimbrough, automatically I think of him and Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich. I think he's a dynamic speaker because I've heard him in person. I think about, what does he teach at? Clark, Spelman, Morehouse, one of those colleges. Clark.
Yes.
I think about those things, right? HBCU. And so that his brand is solidified as being a dynamic speaker, as being not necessarily pro-Black, but being a strong Black man, a strong Black pillar when it comes to Black business, and then bringing the next generation on so that we don't start at a deficit. And most people don't build brands that way.
Yeah, and it's nothing wrong with targeting women, or targeting Blacks, or targeting Black women, or Christian Black women. I mean, the more you niche it down, really, the better, because then you'll find the specialized publications that will have the concentration of the people that will be reading it. And so that's really, really key. Dennis Kimbrough, his book is Speak and Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich. A Black choice.
It's on my shelf right here. Like,
a Black choice. And so it speaks to me. It speaks to you. And millions of other Black people. So it's not like he decided to say, like, I'm going to not do that because I'll limit my audience. No, you actually made a stronger appeal to the audience that will really resonate with you. And then they will become what I call super fans, right? They're super fans because you talk to them. It's like when we pick up a phone to someone, the more you know about a person, the more you can really speak to them. The less you know about them, you're not going to have too much to say, and it just will pass over their head. Yeah. So I want people to really understand that part so much. So are you still doing ghostwriting as well, or
no? I stopped last year. I was like, I only do 2 books a year, but I'm like, I just took it all off the plate. Because what we've actually done is, on top of PR, we've actually went back to like integrated marketing, and then starting with strategic marketing plans and how branding fits in there, and putting the PR plan into the marketing plan. Because a lot of times people will come to me and I'm like, okay, we work in conjunction with the marketing plan that your brand already has. Let me see the plan. And they're like, you are the plan. Like, all I have is PR. I'm like, but where is what is the attraction? Marketing is all about attraction. And then what is the sales plan? Because that way I know what actually needs to be said. And so I'm not doing ghostwriting or editing anymore. I'm just more so sticking on making sure that PR doesn't get lost in the sauce, and that it can shine for what it actually does when it comes to marketing and sales, for these small business owners and entrepreneurs, because it's stuff we know, but I think we forget because we look on social media and it's like, oh, all I got to do is post. All I got to do is a reel. And it's like, no, that stuff works, but there was stuff that was working, like billboards and mailers. These things were working and still work. There are a lot of people that get business offline that are not online every day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they are sending mailers. You get the junk mail, you call it junk, but guess what? It's keeping them in business. Or they
Yes.
have walking, talking billboards for brands that I love. Like, I'm an Apple head. All my technology is Apple products.
Mm-hmm.
Apple
Mm-hmm.
stays in business because I'm gonna keep talking about Apple. And so branding and marketing and PR, that's what it creates. It creates what I call brand loyalists. And
Yeah.
so they just keep sending people. They do the work for you. And most people are afraid, like you were saying, to niche down and just say, oh, I'm going to focus on Black Christian women, because they're like, oh, it'll isolate me. I'm like, no, it's one of the best things you could ever do, because you talk directly to that audience, and then everybody else just benefits and they'll come on board.
Yeah.
But when you put that in then it goes, oh, we need to find all the Christian publications for Black women, or for families, or for
Mm-hmm.
healthy Christian marriages, or
Mm-hmm.
those type of things. But when you're just like, oh, I just want to be everywhere and I want to get seen as much as possible,
You
well,
won't
that
get
would do
seen
nothing for
anywhere.
everything
If
else.
you're trying to get seen everywhere, you won't really be heard by
Yeah.
anyone, because you will really just confuse people, because it's like, well, what is it? How can I refer you? And I always tell people, I said, if I'm going to refer you to something, where have I seen you showing up consistently? If I see you, it's like, oh, I'd like to refer such and such, but but I think they're also selling pies, but I just saw them
Exactly.
over here doing design work, and then I saw, and so now we've confused them. Or someone who says, I'm a life coach. I'm a life coach, but I teach on relationships and I coach on this and I coach on that. And it's like, okay, well, you cannot be good at everything. And it
No way.
just puts a level of doubt in someone when they says, well, I do everything. And you really can't. And so that's what we're really just saying, just you have to niche it down. You really,
Yes.
really do. I want people to go to the website, your website, theomg.biz. They can find out more information about
Absolutely.
you. I love with the OMG, right? That is just so cool. That was like a good brand right there,
Thank you.
It's like, okay, let's do the omg.biz. And really, it's about business. So that's why it's
Absolutely.
about business. And because you can have so much publicity, you can be in all the publications, but if you're not really having a foundational things of building your brand, of really converting the traffic so
Yes.
that it can turn into customers and clients, what is it worth? I mean, it's probably stroke your ego, but it
It's,
really is not going
it's
to pay the
ego
bills.
marketing, but
It's
what
not
is
going to pay the
your bank
bills.
account is, you can't take ego to the bank. You can't do anything with
No,
it.
you
Um,
can't go
yeah.
to the bank and say, "Well, I was just seeing and such on the cover." It's like,
And they're
okay,
like, so
well,
why is that? Why is that money in your bank account?
so as publicists and things like that, what bit of advice would you, I guess you would say, share with a author and speaker that's just starting out? They are not knowing even who to talk to, what
Mhm.
to say. Where should they start? Where would someone who is just really, like, maybe they have a book and they've spoken in a few places, but where would they start with their publicity campaign? What would be the first thing that you would suggest that they do?
Start local.
Mm-hmm.
I like to talk to people before they write their books, because I have that background. I'm like, you can build a business around a book. So before you
Yes.
start writing, I know this was your dream, but if you really want to sell these books, let's be a little bit strategic. So honestly, I'm like, talk to somebody before you do it. But if it's out there and you've spoken, I would say start local. So
Yes.
many times we miss out on opportunities because automatically we want to be national, we want to be international. In your own backyard, the people that know you and trust you already, who would love to say, oh, that's Maleeka, she's from Atlanta. Start there. They're
Yes.
always looking for good news from the citizens that are right there in your own
Yes.
backyard. So your local TV, your local newspapers. If it's a podcast that's, if it's like an Atlanta entrepreneurs podcast, or
Yeah, they could go in the studio for a lot of podcasts now.
yes, like that's the
Mm-hmm.
easiest way to get.
Mm-hmm.
You say, I want to be on CNN one day. Okay, well, try being on 11 Alive, and then
Right.
try being on like things that are local in your
Yeah.
backyard. So by the time you get to CNN, that's less work we have to do as far as media
Yes.
training,
And
because you've done it. And you get on
yes,
CNN and you'll freeze up if you've never had that type of
I've seen people
training
do
before,
that.
or that experience. So start local, definitely.
I like what you said, Malika, when you said, I'd like to see them before they write their book.
Yes,
Because one of the things is that once the book is theirs, I
it's
mean,
there.
it's there. So I always tell people, before you write your book, to write your marketing plan, write your
Yes.
marketing and PR plan of how you're going to sell the book. And it'll really make you stop and think of how to shape the words in the book. Because
Mhm.
if you're not I always say if you're not writing to a market and you're not writing to sell it, you're really just journaling.
Just
And so
journaling.
you want to make sure that you write the marketing plan first about what you want this to do for your business. And that is the most important advice that I can give
Yes.
anyone, because I've had so many authors that will come to me after their book is written and it's a good book, but I said, what's the point? What's the purpose?
What's
How
the
is this really, how are you leveraging this? And so they'd have to like rewrite it.
hmm
And it spent thousands of dollars and they had to pull it down and then rewrite it and put different things in it, different stories. I
Yep.
mean, it's just like before you write anything, please consult with someone like Maleeka or myself to help you shape and position yourself so that you
Yes.
can build the brand. Not just write a book, just, I hear these things like, let's write a book in 30 days. It's like, oh my God, I just cringe when I hear that.
I cringe too. I'm like,
I'm
oh
like, this could be a
Lord.
hot mess. It's gonna be a hot mess.
My write the book challenge, I'm like, okay, but these same people are gonna be talking to me, and I'm like, nah, no.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. So one of the things too, Sheldon says, hi, my name is Sheldon. Hi, could you please send, could you, hi, please, would you contact me? So he wants to
oh,
contact you or me or both. Well, I had so the best way
the
is
best.
always to go to someone's website. So I had that there. So that way, Sheldon, you can actually contact her as well. It's the
Yes, thank you.
omg.biz. And we're right here in the different social medias, but the OMG. And this is a thing too, Maleeka. I always tell people, I said, please, I said, we have so many different places to check. We got Messenger and this and that, Facebook DMs. I said, but the website, if you really want to get someone's attention, go through their website. I
Yes,
guarantee you will get their attention first. Even with media people, I said you want to do the proper way where you know that they're going to respond.
right,
So that
right.
if you're going to contact media, yeah, you can slide in their DMs or whatever. But for the most part, they probably would like an email pitch. That's really like that's what I
Absolutely.
pitch. I pitch that way. So that will be if you're trying to reach out to me, you can actually go to readysetgospeak.com. That's there as well. That's scrolling across the bottom as well. So definitely thank you so much for listening, Sheldon, so that I can we can contact you. And just one of the things too about branding, I want to make sure that people know that when they go through my branding accelerator program, one of the first things that I always tell people, we're building a brand from the ground up. So please have a branded email. A branded
Yes.
email would mean that it's Pam at
Yep.
pamperrypr.com or Maleeka at the omg.biz,
Yep.
something like that. Because between what happens is if you're going to pitch the media, they want to know if they're going to open that email, that it's not spam, one,
Right.
and two, that they can really check out the website before they even open the email,
hmm
because it's between that dot in the middle and then the .com or .biz that they'll know that that's the website.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you're doing that. So that will be good. So anyway, so yeah, so definitely for sure, he wants to get in touch with you so you can see that he has one of his things is that he's mental health. He does a video for mental health professionals and
Mm.
addiction counselors. So that's really
Okay.
one of your lanes. So that will be good. So you also too, when you're looking for publicists, you want to work with publicists that have I say connections in the area
Right.
where you are. If whether it's locally or whether it's within the industry, because they'll have media contacts in that. For me, it's authors and speakers, African American,
Yep.
right? So depending on what they are, primarily a lot of them are business or inspirational speakers, and a lot of them tend to have a Christian bend. So I have a lot of Christian media contacts. So you want to, you want to make sure. And I've even said, with my PR colleagues, and we're in Respect the Publicist with Candace Nicole,
Yes.
if there are other things, if it's not in my wheelhouse, we'll refer them to each other.
Yep.
So,
I will refer.
she's better
Yep.
with food, or, such and such is better with beauty and lifestyle, such and such is better with this. And because they have contacts in
Yes.
that area.
Contacts and relationships.
Oh my God. And it's like, okay. And sometimes we even collaborate together. I
Yes.
collaborate with Karen Taylor Bass on different projects and things like that. So, you want to make sure that you're doing that. So that's one of the key things. So as we end up, is there any other thing that you'd like to share before we kind of end our live today?
Whatever Pam is selling, you need to buy it. That's all I got. I'm just saying.
What
I don't
conferences do you have coming up?
look.
What are you going to?
So my next conference is in July. I haven't released the city yet, but I've been booked for a few things all over. Okay. What's so crazy, I just told myself before, I said, I need to check my calendar for next month because I stay gone. I stay doing something, which I'm grateful. So thank God for that. But yeah, my next conference is in July, and it'll be for entrepreneurs, business owners, and I'll just say creative professionals.
Okay.
And so we'll have a mix because I'm really bringing the spiritual part back into the work that I do for so many. I mean, I'm in ministry and for so long, I was like, nope, I'm gonna leave that to everybody else. And I'm guys like,
that's
hey,
that's part of who you are.
That's part of who I am. Do what I told you to do. So
yes,
I'm bringing that component back into business. It's never left. It was just kind of under wraps. But now,
the last 2 years, we weren't having any kind of conferences. So, you know, that's the other thing. So July, we'll make sure that we go to your website so we get on your list.
Absolutely.
So you can send out all that information on that. That will be good. I know for me, the end of the month, I was speaking at some publishers conference in New York, but I'm really excited to, like I said, Darnell's, hers is coming up in Philly in the end of May, near Memorial Day. And then George Fraser, you know, where we met. That's in August this year. It's in Houston, and it's hot.
Oh, okay.
That'll be hot.
It's gonna be hot.
It's gonna be hot, you know. So and you know, so hopefully, you know, we won't be masking up when it's that hot. Okay, so we're praying that it's all just going away and everybody's back and all that kind of stuff. So, well, thank you so much for joining me, because this has been really, really good. Your background and everything that you're doing is an example that, you know, stay in your lane, keep growing and blossoming, and it grows into other areas. And so you know, staying true to you, just like what you said, your brand, and you're doing your events and you're doing all of the publicity things and doing the writing. And you can even refer people too.
Absolutely.
To other editors if they need it. You know, a good book, when you see it, it's like, you might need to really see this.
You're not putting this out there. You're not putting my name on that.
right. So it's like a certain thing. So yes. So Maleeka, thank you so much for joining us today. And I will talk with you soon. All right.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Get Out There and Get Known podcast, brought to you by PamPerryPR.com, where you'll get insider tips on how to build your platform, pitch the media, and promote yourself with confidence. Head over to PamPerryPR.com and get the exclusive video training on the 7 must-have marketing materials you need before you pitch in order to be considered in media places or superstar stages. PamPerryPR.com, where you help you shine like a superstar.